for a very long time. It could be decades actually before the university actually sees any of that money. So when you see in the news that the university has gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in donations, you have to not take it with a grain of salt, but understand that it's not exactly what it seems like. We haven't just been given millions of dollars that we can spend on whatever we feel like. Other things, ASPRO gave an update. The state legislature is studying proposed changes to the retirement system. My memory is that some of those changes have been put off, or that they may not go forward, but they can always come back up again. ASPRO is calling for an actuarial study that would inform any changes, so that to make sure that if the legislature writes a new law about how the retirement system would work, that it's actually informed by actual data from the way retirement would work based on the number of people, like income, etc. The state retained indefinite appointments, so anybody with indefinite appointment should be very happy that this summer, unlike the way tenure was actually taken out of the law, indefinite appointment is still something that we have. So for any academic staff on indefinite appointment, that was great that we were able to keep that. Faculty have not yet agreed to allow academic staff to participate in discussions regarding program review. So one of the things that Academic Staff Assembly is going to try and do is to get academic staff involved in those program review discussions. So you probably have heard that there have been some consolidations of departments on campus and reviewing whether some programs or departments should exist. And academic staff are obviously integral to the functioning of those departments, and the Academic Staff Assembly wants to make sure that we have a voice in how those changes function, and that it wouldn't just be something between the faculty and the administration. Then one of the other things we mentioned this, Ed mentioned this earlier in the all-staff meeting, the Academic Staff Assembly voted and passed a resolution against open or concealed carry on campus. So that to continue the rules about not allowing firearms on campus. If you're interested in any of those documents about the resolutions that are passed, you can always go to the documents that are listed here, this link, and then you can see all the documents from that specific meeting, and you can read the resolutions, etc. Does anybody have any questions? There was only one meeting. We didn't have a January meeting, so those are all the notes for this time. Does anybody have any questions about the December meeting? All right. Next person.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thanks for putting that together. Kelly, can you come and talk a little bit about ISIP? Yeah, ISIP update.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Hughes. I'm the co-chair of ISIP along with Nancy Graf-Schultz. We also have Carrie Cruz and Miguel Ruiz, who are members of the ISIP steering committee. If you haven't heard of ISIP, ISIP stands for Information Specialist Internship Program, and it's an internship program for second and third year undergraduate students. And the goal is to get more underrepresented students interested in the field of librarianship. So I'm just going to give you a quick update on our new hires. We have some new steering committee members, and then tell you where our current interns are placed now, so you know which staff members are currently working with ISIP students. So first of all, our new steering committee members, we have Omar Poehler from the Sliss Library, Tim Gakken from Verona Shelving Facility, and Jay Ray from College Library. So they all just started their 2-year term at the beginning of this year, January 2016. We also hired 2 new interns that just started January 2016, and they are Kieran Viloff, who currently also works in special collections, and Jorge Perez Trejo, and they're both second-year students. So where our students are placed for this semester, we have Alex, and she's doing an IT module. We split, so the modules are usually half semester. The IT modules are split into 2 placements. So they'll be in one area for 4 weeks and another area for another 4 weeks. So right now she's with J. Ray at College Library, and then she'll be heading to LTG to work with Lisa Haller in a couple weeks. Jorge just started with Ian Benton at College Library working in public services. Kieran is doing special libraries with Anjali in the Sliss Library. And then 2 of our interns are doing their kind of capstone module. So the last placement is a 16-week full semester module, and we try to get people in an area of their interest. So the 2 students we have in 16-week modules now, both are very interested in librarianship. Nong is doing her 16-week module, and she's particularly interested in public libraries. So we've set up a module for her at College Library where she's working with the open book collection and doing some programming and promotion, which is sort of like our public library on campus, we like to say. So she's working with Elliot, Finkelstein, me, and Pamela. And then Tiara is very gifted with Slavic languages. So she's doing some cataloging work for 16 weeks with Jamie Woods and Victor Gorodinsky. So on the horizon this fall or this spring, we will have at the end of spring graduation ceremonies for Nong and Tiara. So I'll be sending out a call for all of you to attend. Even if you've never been involved in ISIP, you've never hosted, you're welcome to come and learn more, meet some of our interns, hear about their experiences. They're usually really fun events where past supervisors share memories and takeaways from their time with the interns, and the interns share kind of like moving remarks on how much this internship meant to them. And then we'll have a call for fall availability coming probably in a couple months. So we're trying to get that out earlier so that we can have those fall placements set up early on, and you all have a lot of notice for when you're going to receive an intern. Any questions about ISIP? So we have a variety of ways. So at the beginning of the semester, there's some resource fairs that we attend to. The Multicultural Learning Center has a resource fair, so we set up a table there. We have brochures that we hand out to various offices on campus. A lot of it is kind of like personal referral though. So for example, Jorge, he ended up in a FIG where there was a class, an LIS class was taught. And he's very much interested in intellectual property and perhaps becoming a patent attorney. So he really didn't ever think of like librarianship as an option or something that would really jive with what he wants to do. But that kind of opened his eyes to, wow, librarians are more than just kind of book jockeys. So yeah, the personal kind of connection is really what we like to leverage. We also, so since we have that student job application database, we can query that and send a special email to second and third year students inviting them to participate, just so that they know about this opportunity.
My question is about funding. Do you get funding from the student budget for this, or is this like a separate funding
Nancy,
that you get?
Sure, we have a line for the ISIP students, although the Friends have been generous.
Okay.
Last year and this year they donated half the cost.
So it's not going to get cut in any way. Doesn't sound like it.
It's not in any jeopardy.
It's not in any jeopardy. Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Julie Arnstorff is up next. And you're going to give 2 reports, University Library Committee and Treasury.
Hello, my name is Julie Arnstorff. The University Library Committee met on Monday, February 1st. Not a lot to report from that meeting. Doug Way was scheduled to give a presentation about collections budgets. However, he wasn't able to be there, so Ed filled in. The gist of it is we have one of the lowest collections in terms of funding in the CIC, and we are 60th in the ARL. So our collections funding is rather low compared to our peers. However, we have not had much success in using these kinds of comparisons to gain support for getting more funding for collections. So the committee discussed alternative strategies to try and gain support. So, for example, focusing on impact of our collections, or the impact of not having enough funding for our collections, unintended consequences, things like that. The open access resolution endorsed by the University Library Committee is moving forward, and there was sort of an update on the consolidation implementation teams beginning their work. So everything that you've heard already this morning if you were at the all staff meeting. And moving on to the Treasury report. We have $59.04 in our savings and $661.67 in our checking. So we're doing okay going into this spring, and our programming, we're going to be able to continue to provide refreshments at business meetings and also eat talk runs on Friday mornings, and looking forward to the high tea. Any questions for me?
Thanks. Yeah. So segueing from high tea to programming, Steve Fry's gonna tell us what's in store for programming this spring.
Okay. So the first thing I wanted to mention is about eTalk Run. So we've had 4 months so far of eTalk Run, which is kind of a new idea. These are gatherings on Friday, the 3rd Friday of each month from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And usually we cover 3 different topics. Each topic, the person who is presenting gets 5 to 7, stretches into 10, sometimes 11 minutes. And then there's some time for questions and answers, and then we go from there. Let me just bring that back up. Sorry. And so I wanted to say the next eTalk Run is going to be February 19th. If you haven't added the eTalk Runs, again, 3rd Friday of each month to your calendars, this is a great time to do so. You don't have to attend the entire time. We usually give you a description of which presentation is going to be at what time, 8:30, 8:50, 9:10. And if there's just one presentation at 9:10, that's all you care about, you can just show up for that. Some of the topics that we've covered over the last 4 months, do-it-yourself standing desks, sift and winnow, the tutorial, Miguel presented on that, trends in board game design, therapeutic coloring. And a few people are doing therapeutic coloring right now. Oral history program, we have that, which was just to talk about the kinds of things that libraries circulate that maybe other library staff aren't aware of. Who is Dr. Marvin Sukov, which 364 is named for Marvin Sukov. Growing Dahlias, we got Nancy to present on that before she left. Office 365 tips and tricks. Winter biking, I presented on that, and I am winter biking these days. I rode in today, I rode yesterday. It's
Good for you. In the slush.
Study tires, study tires.
Yeah.
Key. Digitizing Shakespeare and 3D printing. So those have been the topics so far. If anyone has topics they'd like to present on, please let myself or Craig know, and we can add you into one of the coming months. Librarians Assembly High Tea. The date is going to be April 28th. It's a Thursday at 3 p.m. And again, we're going to meet in the Virginia Harrison Parlor in Lathrop Hall. So this is a great time to add that to your calendar. April 28th at 3 p.m. And in the past, you know, those of you that have been here a while know that high teas used to be used for Librarians of the Year. That was the award. And over time, that award really moved over to become kind of an all-campus, not just a Librarians Assembly Award. And that was great. And so that moved away. And so I think the steering committee has, over the last few years, has been trying to figure out, so what should the focus of the high tea be? And we did some brainstorming this year. We came up with an idea where what we're going to do is come up with categories for which people can vote on librarians library staff who are the best at kind of behind the scenes kinds of things, library staff who did a great job of representing UW libraries at conferences maybe. So the idea is modeled after the annual ISMS, where there's a number of categories and then people vote on which, and in this case it's going to be which person who works within the libraries best represents that category, and then we'll use the high tea to kind of present those awards. Okay, and I think what we're going to do, the steering committee has been trying to come up with these categories, and we've only done so far. So what we should probably do is crowdsource the creation of those categories. Craig and I will send out an email to libraries all, mentioning the high tea, mentioning what we're going to be doing, and asking people to click on a Google Doc and to add categories to that document. And we'll take those categories, create a survey. we'll, at some point, I don't have the exact dates when we'll be releasing that survey out to all of you. You guys can then vote on who you think best represents each category, and then at the high T, those names and those awards will be announced.
Do you vote or do you submit suggestions?
You vote. You mean suggestions for who?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good
We're going to
question.
pre-populate the.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we still need to figure that out a little bit.
We're gonna have a nomination period, right? And then a voting period.
Is that what we
I
decided?
think.
Okay. We went back and forth to not make it so like onerous, and but yeah, that's probably
Which is
right.
why we're starting early. right?
Yeah, that's
So-
true. That is why we're starting early.
Yeah.
So yes. So apparently we are.
Right.
Great question. Should have known the answer. Someone else did.
And we also tossed around the idea of maybe even making it like, these are the 3 people, because the way ISMUS always has like a gold, silver, bronze.
Right.
Maybe we'll just say these 3 people were nominated the most for this or something, or voted, rather than necessarily have it be number 1, number 2, number 3,
Yeah.
But to be determined, right?
Yeah, until we start getting, see how many people take the survey, how many responses we get, it's hard to know exactly how the award thing will go. So we're just going to play it by ear and see what's best. Craig, did you have anything to add?
If anybody wants to get involved in planning this, they can reach out to Steve or me or both of us, and you can meet with us and kind of work on this.
Any other questions for programming?
Well, we're having a steering committee meeting this Friday, and so probably we'll send some information after that. And now, Raina, you want to come up? And Raina's going to talk about the Professional Concerns Committee.
No, I'm coloring.
And coloring.
All right, so handouts. Surround the room. So what I'm handing around right now, and I hope I have enough, are copies of the compiled document of listening session notes from this past fall. Actually, so I didn't just, as I was saying to Jesse earlier, I didn't just want to send this out to the Librarians Assembly list decontextualized. I wanted to bring it here first, but then I do intend to make an electronic copy available to Librarians Assembly. Hi, people at home, you'll see that later. So, like it says at the top of the document, we have 4 listening sessions in the fall semester, 2 at college, or at college at St. Bach Memorial again. And this is a compilation of what people shared and discussed at those sessions. It was always myself and another person from Librarians Assembly Steering or Professional Concerns there taking notes, trying to hear what people were sharing and saying. Some of those other people are in this room right now, so if at any point you want to contribute. So here are the big themes. Here's what people brought to us. And the listening sessions are very open-ended. You can just walk in and say whatever it is you need to say, but patterns do tend to start emerging. We've been doing this for 2 semesters now. There were conversations about career planning. There were conversations about communication, consolidation, morale, and about processes, internal processes within the libraries. And you're all capable of reading this, but I'm just going to go through really quick how to do the highlight reel. So career planning. People asking questions about retirement planning, asking questions about healthcare or making observations, not necessarily direct questions, but raising concerns. Conversation about pay balances between libraries, and also about the title study that we've been hearing a little bit about pending. So those were all things that people raised as they were coming to talk to us. Communication and consolidation, I put on one slide, so this is the communication column, consolidation column. So the pace of communication, the feedback that we were hearing overall, the tenor of the conversation was that people are
generally happy with the direction that the communication from GLS admin is taking. They feel there's been an improvement. They think it's a positive thing. They feel like they're hearing more, but that there could be additional improvement. That's kind of the overall vibe that we were getting. Particularly communication around consolidation was a cause for concern. Wanting to hear more, wanting to have a better understanding, wanting justifications for decisions, things like that. Sympathy for administration was definitely leaking out in the way that people were communicating with us. And hope for improvement in communication. Like I said, people think it's improving, but could be better. Consolidation, there were people who were voicing concern about starting projects with smaller libraries and with colleagues at smaller libraries or working in smaller libraries and starting projects and being concerned about how consolidation might affect long-term planning and how they can understand the context that we're all working in. So that got brought up more than once. Questions about justifications for these changes, feeling like that's not being heard, wanting to hear more about that, and wondering where patron needs and how patron needs have been assessed in this consolidation process are things that we were all hearing about. Morale and process. So morale, I think, was our major theme this fall. It was the thing that people talked about either directly or indirectly the most. Concerned about attrition, announcing that somebody was about to become part of attrition, things like that were coming out in the listening session. A lot of references to burnout, to apathy, to indifference, either on the part of the person speaking or describing things that they've heard from their colleagues and their friends within the GLS, outside of the GLS, and just concerns about dysfunction and how that's shaking loose and consolidation, et cetera, et cetera. So like I said, it was definitely a theme. And then related to processes, lots to talk about ALMA, some talk about forward, lots to talk about ALMA. Talking about workflow and bottlenecks in different departments, and questions about hiring and how that's going forward. And it sounds like Nancy talked about that a little bit this morning at the all-staff meeting. So this is what we were hearing from people. The sessions weren't particularly well attended this fall, but they weren't poorly attended either necessarily. We had good representation across multiple libraries. It wasn't just one library coming in or one department coming in, so that's good. So discussion. So what I'm left with is I communicated this with GLS admin. They get a print copy of this, they get an electronic copy of this. And there are certain things that professional concerns can do something about, and there are certain things that we can't do much about beyond just communicating and sharing, which we have done. And the thing that I'm left with, been thinking about, been talking about with other people in professional concerns committee is low morale. And that is something, in theory, that professional concerns could do something about. And I've thought about things like, what if we had a speaker? What if we had an activity? What, you know, the traditional responses that one kind of cycles through when thinking about morale issues. And none of them feel quite satisfying to me, or like wholly satisfying. So the question that I'm left with is, what can we do to support one another at a time of low morale? And I'm not saying we're going to solve this right now in 3 minutes with a discussion, but does anybody have any suggestions, thoughts, ideas? If you don't want to voice them now, pull me aside, pull another member of the Professional Concerns Committee aside, like Erin Carrillo, for example, who's sitting in the room, and let us know. And then just thinking more broadly, what can librarian assembly professional concerns do to support library staff? But to the question of morale, does anybody have any initial thoughts? Josh?
So I think one of the problems that we face when talking about putting in additional programming or things to actually have social events or anything that might help raise morale on that order is that we're already all feeling stressed thin.
Yeah.
So part of the issue is also not just planning something like that, but also making sure that people are encouraged to be going to these things, that supervisors are aware that, hey, this is important that your employees go to, make sure that they have time to go to this. Because when we start talking about it at that layer, we can start encouraging people, you know, all the way down to actually go to these events and actually feel like they are helpful, as opposed to having a, you know, a speaker or a social event that just ends up being poorly attended because everybody's burnt out and doesn't feel like they have the time to attend one.
And thank you for bringing that out, because that is definitely one conversation that we had about the issue of time, about the issue of how we place importance on these things. So thank you. Any other thoughts? sometimes I think it's helpful to just call it out, that this is a pattern, that this is a thing that we are all feeling, which is one of the reasons I wanted to say it here and now this morning. Know that professional concerns, and I need to get us all together, that professional concerns are going to continue thinking about morale, thinking about change, hearing these patterns and thinking about what we might do to provide support. Just not sure what it is yet. So if anybody has any comments or thoughts after this, please do let us know. And also Josh is part of professional concerns as well. So show you him as well. Any other related to this document? I know I just handed it to you, but related to this document, any other initial questions, observations? Yes, Kelly.
So do these get shared with admin, or how do they get shared beyond?
It has been shared with admin already. I took a paper copy to Nancy Graf-Schultz and I sat down with her and talked through and provided a little bit of context, and then gave her an electronic copy as well to share with the rest of admin. So they got exactly what you have in front of you right now, and I'm going to send it out electronically to Librarians Assembly later.
This isn't a solution, sorry.
No, you didn't.
But rather, something that we were thinking about and talking about coming up with a solution is, it's challenging to devise whether it's a speaker or an activity or something like that, professional development event that honors the seriousness of this while still trying to build positive morale.
Yeah.
So it was, when I was thinking about it, it was difficult to imagine like one event, especially that would be respectful of the way that people are feeling, to not make light of it, and still provide opportunities to build morale back up.
That's primarily where I kept getting tripped up as well. Thank you for that, Julie. Yes.
What about if there's just some way to facilitate people talking to each other more? I mean, maybe there's just a big culture of isolation in general among people who work at disparate libraries, or there was just even a way to facilitate bringing people together in small groups, like
a listening session.
Well, listening session, or like, I recently heard about some corporation, like a tech corporation that has like what they call a Russian roulette lunch, right? So you're randomly paired with somebody to have lunch with, somebody you don't know. Of course, you wouldn't want to force people to have lunch together, but like, there's people who do want to kind of get out and meet people. You could organize think about organizing small ways to get people to talk to each other on like their lunchtime or something. I don't know, which normally, but also encouraging people to take lunch.
Yeah,
Or give specific, or any department the tools and ideas to kind of put something like that into motion.
Right.
So they don't have to meet up and figure something out. There's something already in place that they can pull from or borrow ideas.
Yeah. Thank you. And that, I mean, I think you make an interesting point, because one of the things that happened at a couple of the listening sessions this past fall is only one person showed up, or one person at a time.
Right.
And invariably the opener was, oh, I was hoping more people would come.
Right.
So I could hear what other people have to say, which is great and valid and shows compassion for your colleagues. And then that person would proceed to talk for like a half hour. And so they clearly had things to share, but they wanted to hear too, and they wanted a space for like context and a place to bounce their feelings and their thoughts. So I think that's a really good, interesting idea. Yes.
So when I looked at the list, it's overwhelming. On a level that, like, oh my gosh, makes me a little sad. But with the first step is to collect this data and categorize it and identify these themes. And I'm very glad that your group is doing that. What I wonder is there a way for the professional concerns committee to help actually get some priority? So because there's so much here and there's so much variance, we don't have the resources to time to address everything at the fullest level. Can we prioritize them? Can we assess this, this one thing would actually have the broadest impact? I think that, trying to sort of address things that might hit the most number of people isn't always the right way to be fair. But,
Right.
I mean, is there something that is their next step in the analysis?
think that's a really good question that I don't have an answer to, but I think it's a good question to put there and for professional concerns to sit down and say, is there one thing we can do? And my initial sense is morale is the one thing that we can really directly respond to in professional concerns, that is within our purview, and also communicating what we know to GLS administration, and hoping that they go through their own process of discernment and looking at what are things that they can change now and improve now and help with now. But I think that's a really good question and a good way to think about it. Anything else?
So thank you again for doing this and doing this agree that.
Well, thank you to those of you who participated and assisted, and we're going to keep gathering data in the spring, starting this Friday in the College Library Conference Room. There'll be another hour-long listening session. It will be myself and one other member of professional concerns sitting and waiting to hear what everybody thinks. Anything else? Thanks for your ears and your ideas.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I guess it's a good topic for our steering committee meeting on Friday too. That's kind of it. I thought I would just give a quick update on the resource management redesign team because that's happening right now, and I'm one of the 6 task force members on that team. So let me find the page. So I just wanted to remind people that there's information out there regarding what's going on with the resource management redesign team. So you're in the Confluence, and I just learned this today. How to get this when you're not using my bookmarks. This needs to be in the Madison Library space, and the resource management redesign project is here. And there's a reminder as to who we are and what we're doing and what we're charged with. And let's look at our timeline. So we're still in phase 1 of just looking at the charter here, which is linked from here. We have these 3 phases. First one is information gathering, which I think is going to trickle past February. And within phase 1, we're tackling. So our executive summary for questions 1 through 4 should be coming out, I think, fairly soon. Am I right, Kat? That's supposed to be Karen Rotundi is working on that, and we're all kind of working together. And we're basically working on question 5 right now. We're giving ourselves a little extra time. And so what we're doing with this, what resource management services do our peers deliver, we're actually calling different schools and having conversations with people at peer institutions. So we're talking to heads of cataloging, heads of preservation departments, heads of acquisitions, and just asking them information about how they are organized. Did you go through a reorg? What was it like? What did you think about? What did you look like before and what do you look like now? So we're gathering information like that to help inform what it is we're trying to do here. So I just wanted to remind people that this information is out there and we're trying to keep it as transparent as possible and put information up there after we've gathered it. And this is where you can find it. Does anybody have any questions about this task force? It's all right here. Okay, so that's it for Librarians Assembly. Unless there's anyone who has an announcement of any sort that they'd like to share. Josh?
Sure. I just want to reintroduce John Healing, who was introduced at the all-staff meeting, but he's, as Pete said, he's taking over a lot of the Windows work. So that will affect, obviously, all of your workstations that you use to do your daily jobs and that kind of stuff. So, you know, hopefully you get to know him and are able to work with him. We're getting him into Librarians Assembly stuff early.
Good. Welcome. Anything else? Okay, that's it. Thanks everyone for coming. Help us finish up the coffee and have a good rest of the day.